You mind telling me what this is all about?
I snap out of my thoughts when the voice of the town's newest resident speaks up from behind me. I can't help but snicker in amusement when I see my crow snuggled up against his cheek. It was interesting to see how lively the small creature had become. I'd had it made from the same dark matter that most things in Nowhere were created from. It was only supposed to be an extra set of eyes for me, but somehow he'd brought life into it. Oh, how attached he'd become to something that wasn't even truly alive. Huh? What? Excuse me?
What the hell are we doing out here?
He asked, sounding more tired than anything as he kicked a rock out of his way, only to have it start floating in the air like a balloon rather than skitter across the path. Spencer, of course, remained as stoic as ever, and just absent-mindedly poked the drifting rubble.
Oh, good. Not even gravity wants to be here.
Just a little job training, dear. I'd also like to familiarize you with this area. I waved a hand to highlight the lush forest we were strolling through. Not that the theatrics really mattered, when my trainee was significantly more interested in staring down at every mildly peculiar thing that caught his eye. Can't trust that irritating ghost roommate of yours to properly clue you in on all of Nowhere's oddities. He barely did when it was his own life on the line. Where is he anyway? He's been rather glued to you since you arrived. Not that I'm complaining.
He's home. He's been floating in the corner of the living room since last night. His eyes just blacked out. Staring. But I'm sure he's fine. He just does this every now and again.
Spencer coughed and glanced away as he caught up to me, still keeping his distance. Indeed. Ever since Riley's unfortunate and in no way intentional demise, his ghost tended to appear in my house in much the same state. Though I'm sure he'd love to cause me any form of negative emotions, I don't think he himself was even aware of what he was doing. It was, mildly unnerving the first time, but after a while, I just took to putting the code rack in front of him and proceeding with my day. Now, since you seem to have more curiosity than common sense, I thought it'd be good to, as if to demonstrate my point, McCormick had taken an immediate interest in one of the old and rotted staircases that littered the forest. I snatched his hand away quickly before he could lay a finger on it, and proceeded to drag him along. My arms had been long overtaken with dark matter. It didn't bother me, as its shape-shifting properties made it very easy to get an inescapable grip on my reluctant employee.
Ugh. What the fuck is wrong with your hands?
He asked, trying to tug away gently as he poked at the now solidified goop that encased his own. As I was saying, I thought it'd be good to formally explain some oddities of the surrounding area. I have learned from experience that your kind has a talent for getting themselves killed off quickly. I continue, ignoring his question. That, and there's one oddity in particular I'd like you to keep an eye on here. We stop for a moment on the trail as I clear my throat and motion towards the obvious divide in the forest. On one half of it, there were large, thick trees with nearly impossible to miss unnerving eyes that stared at you from openings on the bark. You're already familiar with that half. It's where that old shell of a train station is. It's also infested with those revolting forest-dwelling cultists, so I highly recommend avoiding it whenever possible. Spencer glances over at it.
That reminds me. I've been meaning to ask you about them.
I cut him off, clearing my throat. In due time. Now about the other side. I direct over to the other half where there were the beginnings of a rather beautiful birchwood forest. Though not too far into it was a mist that obscured the rest of it from view. I'll keep it quick. That forest is somewhere you should never dwell too far into. The outskirts are safe, but once you enter the fog, the chances you'll ever come out are slim. There's only one person who I've seen regularly come in and out of it, though she's not exactly human anymore. Spencer eyed it down, stopping after a moment which resulted in me stumbling slightly, since we were still bound by our hands. Honestly, McCormick, if you're going to keep this up, we'll be here all day. My lecture trailed off when I saw what he was staring at. High near the top of the birch trees were large chrysalises attached with a strange web-like substance. It was a wonder how they weren't falling off or causing the trees to bend in any way. Their casing was translucent, and inside was a strange pulsing black substance that seeped out.
What are those?
Dark bunny eggs, it looks like. These things seem to always be showing up on the edge of the forest. A handful of goop escaped from its silky prison and plopped onto the ground in a wet thump. The glob of dark matter vibrated and popped until the crunch of bone and twist of meat could be heard. It began to come to a stop, forming a little round, pure black bunny with multiple stubs for legs and small, beady white eyes. I stepped back from the thing, knowing all too well that these creatures were merely wolves in sheep's clothing, but of course Spencer stepped closer to it.
Aw, it's kinda cute. It looks just like you, Constant.
He said quietly, kneeling down by it. The bird didn't seem to approve, and I could see its feathers ruffling and puffing up tensely as it stared down at the monster. It let out a strange hissing noise towards the bunny before hiding in its master's hoodie. Would you refrain from touching that disgusting thing? I grunt, trying to drag him back as he just huffs and yanks out of my hold.
Oh, come on. Stop being such a prude. Look at it.
Spencer, I swear, just listen to me. Before the idiot could touch it, I quickly shoved the bunny away with my foot. Latching onto him again, I managed to pull him away somewhat before he stood back up.
Jesus, fine. I'm coming. Just stop.
He said with irritation as he dusted himself off.
What's your problem? The thing's barely bigger than a fucking orange.
The problem is you're so irritatingly curious, and if you don't stop trying to fuck with every little thing you see, you're going to get yourself killed.
Well, if you're going to drag me into hell, I can at least try to make the most of it. That thing can't be any worse than you, and I already deal with your shit 24/7.
I was going to retort, but I stopped when our argument was disrupted by a high-pitched squeak. The small, dark bunny rolled itself into a ball and started to throb and boil. Spencer winced, covering an ear.
Now look what you did.
He mumbled under his breath, reaching out towards the blob to attempt to comfort it. To my rather short-lived amusement, he began to realize why I'd warned him when the monster began to uncoil itself. It grew larger, as its once small and stubby legs stretched out into grotesque, sharp spider legs. More eyes began to grow on its face somehow as the once cute creature let out a disgusting wail, seeming to signal to the rest of its family. Like hail, more black globs started to pour out from the cocoons hiding above us, and the parents crawled out of their hiding spot to say hello. Spencer stumbled back into me. I can feel him starting to tense up when he realized just how many of these things were surrounding us.
Shit. Was not expecting this.
Obviously. Now, if you'll actually listen to me... With what little time I had, I stretched out the dark matter connecting us, and I severed it down the middle. The pain was minimal, but Spencer desperately needed a weapon. Before he really had a chance to process what was happening, the goop encasing his arm quickly morphed into a long blade.
Ugh, what in the fuck just happened? What is this?
He wiggled the new addition to his arm slightly, flinching when he sliced through one of the rabbits that were falling from the treetops. We're not getting out of this without a fight, dear, so I recommend you learn how to use it. To my surprise, he seemed to calm down relatively quickly, and gave the bird snuggled in his hood a small nudge.
Right. Constance, wake up. We got work to do.
Damn it. I grumble under my breath, transforming my hand back to its normal state, as the last survivors morphed into one mass, and wiggled into the ground.
What are you complaining about? I'm just happy they're gone.
Spencer brushed himself off and gave Constance a gentle scratch as she swallowed a hunk of putrid meat from the bunnies. The little bird was unexpectedly useful in a fight, all the more reason to keep her with him at all times. Those things breed obnoxiously fast. The ones that got away are just going to multiply and give us more garbage to deal with later.
Well, maybe if you're lucky, they'll just end up with the forest dwellers. That's all. Could you get this, whatever it is, off my hand?
I sigh and turn to face him, grabbing his morphed arm. Are you sure? I must say it does look good on you.
Okay, very funny. Now take it off.
With a wave of my wrist, the black mass slides off Spencer and is absorbed back into my own hand. I pause when I hear the clock tower back in town ring out. Oh dear, how time flies when you're destroying abominations. I believe it's about time to return to town hall, and if you want to tag along, I'd recommend behaving and acting like a good little investigator. Unless you want more practice with that thing.
Yeah, no, fuck you. I'd like to go the rest of my life without using this shit again.
He huffed, looking away and stuffing his hands into his pockets as he followed behind me. You can't afford it, young man.